Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our Sunday morning talk. I'm going to start with the announcements before the chant because there are not so very many of us here yet. And anybody who wants to find out about the announcements can go back and find out about them. The first thing is our chapel is open, continues to be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Every day of the week for your private use. If indeed you think you're coming, it's always good to give me a call. You can just call the center's number. It forwards to my cell phone, and and check to make sure that I'm going to be here. Because if I'm not here, of course, then I lock up the chapel. So that's the announcement about the chapel. Appointments with me are by you just call or send an email, and we'll arrange the appointment. For example, I have one at 3 p.m. this afternoon. So those are the announcements, except for Seva Saturday. Seva Saturday will be held this month. It will be on the 11th, a week from yesterday. And weather permitting, there'll be a good deal of work to do outside. Weather not permitting, there's a good deal of work to do inside. So one way or the other, if you can spare some time next Saturday, we meet from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if you're here at lunchtime, we feed you lunch. So that's our Seva Saturday. Are there any announcements that I might have made that should have been made that I didn't think to make? Anyone have any announcement they wish to make? All right. Well, we'll start with our opening chant. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinav Aditamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, once again, good morning. And here is another prayer, one with which I open and close each day. Dearly beloved Father, Mother, Thakur Ma, this day or night, this day is offered to thee. All actions and their fruits, all moods and projections, all feelings, all thoughts, all perceptions, all memories, all reveries, all knots and thoughts of the heart, all attitudes, all aptitudes, all tendencies. May all these be an offering at thy blessed, beloved, holy feet. may all be oblations to the fire of Brahman. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. You will see the relevance of that as we develop this morning's theme. March is a month for the study of Karma Yoga, a spiritual path leading to the abandonment of selfishness. As a karma yogi, you practice offering all your actions and their results, as well as your perceptions, thoughts, and feelings to the Divine Presence. In many Ramakrishna Mission centers, this prayer is chanted by the congregation at the close of a homa fire ceremony. No matter what I may have done, said, or thought, in waking, dreaming, or dreamless sleep, with my mind, my tongue, my hands, or my other members, may all this be an offering to Brahman. Even before, now that's the end of the prayer that's recited. Even before realizing that divine presence, you hold firmly, as a karma yogi, you hold firmly to the belief that that presence is within each person or other living being that you interact with or serve. Working and abiding in this spirit, you are increasingly able to release attachment to your activities and their results. You are increasingly, slowly and slowly, you're increasingly able to release attachment to your actions, their activities, and their results. This yields the freedom and contentment promised by Karma Yoga. And here's the promise. This is at the end of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna says, even a little practice of this yoga will save you from the terrible wheel of rebirth and death. Now, Krishna, of course, sees human rebirth, the compulsory wheel of rebirth and death, as a great evil. Taking embodiment again and again, not casting off one's delusions, and freeing oneself from this. Well, he says, even a little practice of karma yoga. So we'll see what karma yoga means as we discuss this topic this morning. The topic is, whose karma is it? Quote, not a leaf moves, but by the will of God. Unquote. Quote, God alone is the doer. Unquote. So say the scriptures. Quote, the Divine Mother is the all-pervading goddess who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. Unquote. That's from the Chandi. In the presence of such thoughts, is it easier to believe Sri Krishna when he says the fruits of your actions, karma, are not your own, that in fact you have no right to that karma? Can you experience what Krishna says as a great relief? Let's explore and discuss these questions. So is there anything that anyone would like to say that in response to any of these things? Not a leaf moves but by the will of God. God alone is the doer. The Divine Mother is the all-pervading goddess who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. These are the thoughts that underlie what Sri Krishna says, that if you are not the doer, if not a leaf moves but by the will of God, if the Divine Mother is in fact the doer, presiding over the senses of all beings and governing all the elements, can you experience what Sri Krishna says as a great relief? Anything from anyone?
Brother Shankara, this is Janaki.
Yes, Janaki.
Yes, it is a great relief. And I like to say to people that relief is my favorite emotion.
Very good. Now, why is it a relief?
Because it's not up to me. It's not my fault. I am a witness, and this is a movie, and I don't have to take, well, I'll just stop there. I don't want to, I could walk into something saying that's not quite right.
Well, Janaki, what you've said is quite apt. Though there is no question of fault, really, it is certainly, if we're prone to think about fault, it certainly is not our fault. But we'll talk about what it is that is doing. Certainly some doing is going on. We're doing it right this minute. What is doing it?
Brother, can I say, Gaurav here?
Yes, Gaurav.
Can I say once we think in that way, when we start feeling that, we start letting go of this burden that we are at fault, and it releases a lot of load from deep within, and we can actually focus on the truth that is the divine, and stop worrying that, hey, this is, and stop beating ourselves down. So that negativity absolutely vanishes.
Wonderful, wonderfully well said. That negativity vanishes if we don't see it as anything that has to do with the reality of us. Now, the reality of us, as Janaki pointed out, Sri Krishna says, when you dispel the illusion that you are the doer and understand that it is the body, the senses, and the vital force and the devas that are doing this through the gunas, when you dispel that delusion, you are left with the witness. And the witness does not have or want anything. It simply experiences. It has intentions. That's why this embodiment, this breathing thing was created. But the intentions are simply to experience what happens as the gunas, the body, the mind, the intellect, do their work. So anything else from anyone? We're doing well here.
Brother, I have a question. I
Yes.
want to misinterpret what you're saying, because it almost sounds to me like you're saying that the body, the senses, the gunas they're the doers, or the doer. Is that
That is exactly correct.
okay?
That is exactly what Sri Krishna tells us. And if we analyze it, we'll see that that is the case. If we sit calmly and simply analyze, we'll see that the more we just relax and sit in that witness chair, we'll see that the body, mind, and intellect have their priorities, their wishes, their activities, and they're all fostered by the gunas. The gunas are constantly at work, stimulating the past mental impressions of this breathing thing, this spacesuit, our garment. And so the garment then does things. And the more we are clear about this, the more appropriate and auspicious will be the things that this breathing thing, this body does. This body, mind, and intellect. As Sri Ramakrishna says, you become more and more the expert dancer that cannot put a foot wrong, because it is not you doing it. You are witnessing the dance going on, and the dancer knows exactly what to do because of the purity that comes from releasing any attachments. I'm sorry, did you say something, Bhagarat?
No, Uma want to say something.
Oh, we are sharing a computer today. So,
I see. All right. Very good.
so I wanted to add something,
Yes.
if I may. This morning, as is my daily habit, I squeeze in some time, maybe 10 minutes, to move around the house. If the weather is bad outside, I take a walk inside my house. While walking, I'm churning out different thoughts. And one of the thoughts this morning just came up spontaneously. And that thought was our topic today. Who is doing karma? And I thought, of course, yes, I'm walking. So as a subject, I am walking. But the ability to walk is not in my hand. It is God walking. And I am an instrument who is walking. That's the thought came. Second thought came about what you mentioned in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, that you have a right to act only, not to the fruit of action. And that made me think, how is it ever possible if you tell everybody that, okay, work hard, do your best, but leave it there and don't expect it to be for the outcome, favorable outcome. And then it clicked automatically from inside that Krishna does not ask Arjuna to set a purpose. When you start any work, little or big, positive or negative, you start with intention. As you say, you have to make a purpose. You intend to do something. So Krishna does not say that you do not set up a purpose. Any activity must have some passion, some purpose for undertaking that task. However, purpose setting is not the same as expecting results and favorable results to be, if you may. So that's where people like me or many people go wrong. That when we start with great enthusiasm any work, that's wonderful. But then to spend your energy and your intention and your continuous, focus on what will be, what if I fail, what if I succeed, what if I did not make it within certain period of time. All these thoughts are stray thoughts, which are not negative, but which interrupt the flow of the work. And they are hindering the process. So
Yeah.
focus on the process, not on the outcome.
Precisely, dear. And all of that business of outcome is just a habit that we have.
Yes.
And it's very interesting that the latest brain research, the latest research on the brain, indicates that something prompts our action milliseconds before we are aware of our intention to act and before our muscles react. Something prompts it. Something prompts it. But they don't know what. They have no idea what it is, where this prompt comes from. Well, our awareness of what Sri Krishna says gives us a clue. It is the gunas, it is the actions of the gunas that have stimulated something in our body-mind complex, our antakarana, that then responds. So we go for a walk, or we cook an egg, or whatever it is that we do. It is, Sri Krishna says, you dream all of this action. It is a dream. It is a dream. He says this very explicitly in chapter 5. So this is not in the sense of ultimate reality, a reality. It is a dream reality, like the dreams that we dream when we're asleep. This makes it very clear that, of course, we cannot be the doer any more than we are the doer of our dreams. We are not the doer of our outward actions as this living, breathing thing. Who is acting? According to Sri Krishna, what is acting is, first of all, the body. Second, this sense of doership, this deluded sense of doership, this dream reality. So these are the 5 things that he lists as what is doing. The body, the sense of doership stimulated by the dream, the 5 senses, the activities of the vital force within the body, and then the devas. Now, the devas are the instruments of the gunas. The devas are that which allows the Divine Mother to preside over the senses of all beings and govern all the elements. It isn't like she's like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, pulling each lever and pushing each button. No, she has these numberless servants, devas, gods, small g gods. Of course, they start in a hierarchy with Indra and her mind-born sons. Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer and protector, Shiva, the transformer. But all of it, they are creating, sustaining and protecting, and transforming this dream. The reality of us, the eternal, changeless, infinite reality of us, is defined as the Atman or Brahman, which has its two aspects. The active aspect, Saguna Atman, or Saguna Brahman, or Shakti, or Maya. It has so many names, Prakriti. And then Nirguna Atman, that which simply witnesses and observes. It doesn't learn. It already knew because it is knowledge itself. It is, as all of the scriptures and Vivekananda triple underlines, the knowledge is already within. The truth, capital T, is already within. We only have to dispel that which covers it. And we see the truth, which is what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about the truth as expounded by Sri Krishna in Karma Yoga. There are other forms of this truth. Bhakti Yoga is another way of thinking about the truth. Raja Yoga is another way of thinking about the truth. Jnana Yoga is another way of thinking about the truth. But the truth that they're thinking about is all the same. The eternal, the changeless, the infinite. It's only how we think about that which does change, that which is not eternal, that which is finite. These are the four yogas as we discuss them here. This morning we're talking about Karma Yoga. Anything else from anyone about any of these thoughts?
I'll go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Tom.
Okay, so this came up in one of these discussions recently. And it's something, whether or not you're talking about the divinity, God, the mother God being the doer, or previous events being the doer, to me, this all comes down to this question of free will and determinism, which is not just something in Eastern philosophy. I just looked it up quickly. It goes back at least to Aristotle in Western philosophy. It's something that when I first started to think about it as a teenager, it totally perplexed me. And now as an old man, it still totally perplexes me. It just, any way I look at it, it doesn't make any sense. Obviously, I'm not the doer. I mean, I can see that and I can reason that out. But if I'm not the doer, then there's all kinds of things that don't make any sense. So I just remain perplexed. And sometimes that perplexity can lead to a sort of like collapse of all of my mental structures, and then a great joy and freedom. You know, when everything collapses, I don't know anything, and then a wonderful sense of freedom comes with it. Other times I try to figure it out, but the thing that I said all this before, but the thing that I can add, sometime back I was asking, I asked on a message board, it was a group of meditators, I asked about free will and determinism, and one guy, I still remember his answer, he said, listen, nobody has ever figured out free will and determinism, but some people have gotten enlightened. So maybe you should just work on enlightenment and give up trying to figure out free will and determinism. So I like that answer. But I don't know. I have no idea if there's any sort of God or divinity directing things. There may or may not be. I've said I'm an agnostic, a person who says he doesn't know. But if it's not a God or something else, it's just previous events. You know, everything if everything is cause and effect, which is the way it seems to be, then everything I do has a cause, a previous cause, and it's, you know, that free will is an illusion. If you're a complete materialist and believe that we got here just by evolution, still I'm going around in circles. I'm talking too much, so I'm going to stop. Thanks for listening.
Well, thanks as always for your very articulate way of approaching these things, Tom. And yes, what is more perplexing than a dream? We can't make any coherence out of a dream. Everything just seems to happen in a dream. And this happens, and then that happens, and the other thing happens. And it doesn't seem connected. It doesn't seem rational. It doesn't seem coherent. So naturally, it's perplexing. If indeed Sri Krishna is right, and no one is being expected to swallow what Sri Krishna says, and no, it's up to us to experience it. But you know, we look to these teachers for some guidance, and Sri Krishna says, look, folks, this is a dream. You're dreaming. You're dreaming that you're doing. You're dreaming that there are any results. You're dreaming that there's any action or any outcome. All of this is a dream. It arises and passes away. So if indeed it is a dream, yes, it is indeed. And the word perplexing is just perfect. Thank you, Tom.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, John.
why does Krishna say to Arjuna, you have a right to act?
Well, because this is why this is the intention of the Atman, of the Saguna Atman that brought this being of Arjuna into existence. So Arjuna has a right to go ahead and not shun action altogether, not just sit in a corner and be like little Jack Horner. You know, you have a right to act because you have been created in order to act, but it is a dream. So it is perplexing, no doubt, but that is why Krishna says to Arjuna, you have the right to act. You were created in order to act. He says, in fact, that you have no ability not to act. Even blinking your eyes or having a thought is an act. But you don't have to think you don't have a right to this action. You have a right to it. You just don't have any right to the results. Because then if you do take if you take that right, then you have to take the burden of the karma on yourself. And that is where misery kicks in big time.
But you are not really acting, correct?
No, the you of you is not acting. It is not, it has nothing. It knows nothing. It does nothing, and it wants nothing. The you of you is an observer, the witness. This is what is so confounding to us, that the truth of my being and the truth of your being is one being, but it appears as these many beings. Because why? Because it can, and apparently wants to. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the words are, I am one, I shall body myself forth as many.
Brother Shankara?
Yes,
Yes, I was thinking about the fact that the right to act, but for the spiritual evolution of this jiva, we also have to act to exhaust our previous vasanas. If we do not act, it has to begin with the action, the right action, to exhaust our previous vasanas so we can be on the path of spiritual evolution.
well, there's a question as to whether you have to exhaust your previous vasanas. Nira, certainly Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna say that's not true, and Jesus says it's not true, that your previous vasanas can simply be washed away. All of that can be washed away. You turn to me in utter devotion. I see no sinner. I don't see those vasanas or sins. And they simply are expunged. And holiness itself shall transform you. This is what Sri Krishna said. So there's some question as to whether or not we need to exhaust our previous vasanas. This is a burden that apparently we do not need to take on. We don't need to feel we have anything to exhaust.
I was thinking of doing the right activities and the right deeds in this birth from that angle. Yeah.
Well, but how do we know? How do we discern what is the right thing to do? Not by thinking about it. Simply by being that witness self that then gives us an indication by simply causing that thought, feeling, or action to arise in us. The auspicious, the right action. And when Sri Ramakrishna says that you become like an expert dancer as you purify your mind and your intellect of this delusion that you are the doer and have any vasanas or samskaras, then you become like an expert dancer and cannot put a foot wrong. So you don't have to worry about doing the right thing. And Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivananda, said exactly the same thing. Install the divine being in your heart. That is to say, make that the focus of your attention. And he says, you don't have to worry about anything then. You don't have to worry about right action, wrong action. Everything will take care of itself.
Thank you.
That isn't easy, but it is simple in principle.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brother, so then the notion of doership would also apply with yamas and niyamas, that really we're not the ones doing the observances or restraints.
Exactly. But they are done if we wish to pursue Raja Yoga. Now, we have to be careful here. We're talking about Karma Yoga on the one hand, and now you've brought in Raja Yoga on the other. Patanjali has a different take on this. Patanjali, though he definitely would agree with Sri Krishna, he says, in the beginning, focus on your doership. Then, as you come to the later stages, where you release all attachment to the senses and to the things of the senses, all doership, therefore, then you release all this. But in the beginning, in Raja Yoga, he says, take responsibility for your actions. You have a feeling of responsibility for your actions. Now, but that's Raja Yoga, you see. Now, Karma Yoga is different. Karma Yoga is different, as taught by Sri Krishna. He says, forget about all that doership business. It's a dream, a delusion.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
if I'm not mistaken, chapter 2, Krishna also says, Yogaha karmasu kaushala. Action is perfected skill. So you have to, if you are a karma yogi, you need to perform your actions to the best of your ability and focus on perfecting the skill of the work. So that's where intention comes. You make your work so good, so formidable, that you don't have to worry about the results. The work will speak for itself.
Yes, this is true. And Krishna says, if in chapter 3, he says, if you pursue this yoga, you automatically become more skillful and efficient. I'm sure that you remember those verses as well. You automatically become more skillful and efficient, which is exactly what Swami Shivananda was pointing to in what he said. You don't have to worry about being skillful. You don't have to worry. The last thing you need to do is worry about anything.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
You focus on doing what you're given as instructions, and the outcomes take care of themselves. And that's why the outcomes are not yours. You have no right to the fruits of the outcomes, because that will just bind you if you're clinging to the fruits of the outcomes. That's just going to bind you, and you will then be compelled to take another birth, to where you learn that it's a dream and you should not cling to the fruits. It's simple in principle, difficult in practice. There's no way around it, which is why we practice our spiritual disciplines as taught in each of these. Sri Krishna is very explicit about how to free yourself. He said, offer it all to me. Live sacramentally, he says. What is a sacrament? A sacrament is an outward betrayal of the grace and divinity within. So live in such a way that your actions and your thoughts betray your knowledge of the truth and the divinity within. How to do that? He says, offer it all to me, which is why I started with that little prayer that says, dearly beloved, this day and all it contains is offered to thee. So that each act, each thought, each perception is regarded as sacramental, as betraying the truth of the divinity and grace within it. Anything else from anyone? Please, this is exactly what we should be doing.
Well, I'll jump in since nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I was about to jump in.
Okay, let Cindy go
My
first, Tom.
fingers were slow. Can I jump in, or did you have something?
No, please go right ahead,
I want to
Cindy.
hear Cindy.
This is kind of going a little bit back to what we were talking about free will and, you know, the doer and all that. And I think ultimately, of course, we're not the doer, but whether we're the doer or not, all depends on our thinking. You know, if we're not thinking, it doesn't even, it's not an issue. It's a non-issue if we're not thinking about it.
Very well said.
When we are acting, which we are bound to do as body-bound beings, when we're in the middle of doing something, we're usually not thinking about whether we're the doer or not. It's when we're reflecting and thinking about, oh, look what I just did. And we can be in the middle of doing and have those insights too, which are wonderful. It's glorious, but we often don't. But anyway, I think it all comes down to, are we thinking about it or not?
Right. Well, very well said. And what we finally realize is that thinking about it, we can't stop thinking about it, but how much does it matter whether we think about it or not? So then we learn to practice, as Sri Krishna tells us throughout the Gita, and all of the scriptures tell us, if you want to be free from all of this, learn to practice meditation and turn inward. And this is what Sri Krishna says at the end of chapter 5. Turn inward, turn inward, turn inward. There you will find this peace that passeth all understanding, that is thinking and conceptualization. And it is the peace of that truth of our being. And it is way below, if we use that metaphor of sinking within, sinking downward, way below the level of all this thinking. As you say, it isn't even a question when we're not thinking about it. When we're just immersed in it, we're not thinking about it. Then there's times when we're thinking about it, then we can do what our spiritual practices tell us to do and sink below that into that silence where Tom Carr brought out before. Everything, all of that mental construct, all of those thought structures and ways of explaining all collapse because they're a house of cards to begin with. So they collapse, and we're left with what? As he said, this absolute supreme joy and bliss. In those moments where we're free of all of that, where we have sunk below it and it has collapsed or simply continued like people playing on the surface of a pool and you're sitting at the bottom. How clear it is what's what. So thank you, Cindy. That's exactly right, what you said. So Tom, did you have something else?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So a real world example where it can become very confusing. Say there's something that I don't like to do, like flossing my teeth. I do not like flossing my teeth. I do it every night. So why not, if I'm not the doer, then I'm off the hook. It just gets incredibly confusing. If I'm not the doer, then why are my teeth not getting flossed? But then I'm the one that's going to have to go to the dentist and have gum problems if I don't floss. It's extremely confusing. So
well, exactly, Tom. That's exactly it. A dream is confusing. It's confusing because it is a dream, and there is no resolution to why you continue to floss. You continue to floss because you continue to floss. Something in you knows it is the auspicious thing to do. But it doesn't matter what knows that. As the brain researchers say, we can't quite sort it out what it is that is giving these instructions. And they're trying and trying. And they're now, a researcher by the name of Pim van Lommel, you've heard me talk about him before, a researcher by the name of Pim van Lommel. He started out as a cardiologist. He was a PhD as well as a cardiologist, but he was working as a cardiologist. Then he became fascinated with certain kinds of experiences that human beings have. And he wrote a book called Consciousness Beyond Life, that there is a consciousness that is animating what we do, that has nothing whatsoever to do with this breathing thing. The breathing thing is simply its instrument, its transceiver. So you can read his explanation, if you like, in this book, Consciousness Beyond Life, because he spent years researching it, in my opinion, to a fare thee well.
How do you spell his last name, please?
It's P-I-M, next word V-A-N, next word L-O-M-M-E-L.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And the book is Consciousness Beyond Life.
Brother Shankara, this is funny, but I want to respond to Tom about flossing.
Uh-huh.
I had years ago severe gum problem. So I was advised after minor surgery that I floss every time after I eat. So religiously, I floss 3 times a day, after breakfast, after lunch, and after dinner. The point is that, okay, if we are dreaming, as long as we are in this dream state, we better floss, because this is, even though a dream, we are not past that dream. We are still in this state of dreaming. So as long as we are in that state, it is for our benefit that we floss. That's how I take it.
Yes, if God alone is the doer, and God knows that it's better for you to floss after every meal and so then tells you to do that, and you do it. It is God knowing and God doing. God alone is the doer. Mother, it's said in the Chandi, presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. And so, yes, we do these auspicious things because God alone is the doer. Not a leaf moves, but by the will of God. This is in the scriptures of Sanatana Dharma, it's in the scriptures of Christianity, and it is in the scriptures of Islam. It is apparently a truth recognized by the great teachers across these traditions. Not a leaf moves, but by the will of God. If that's true, then how much more true it must be of each of us. We are moving, thinking, acting by the will of God. And there is an aspect of God that is witnessing all this. And when we take refuge in that witness being, turn inward, as Sri Krishna says at the end of chapter 5, turn inward, turn inward, turn inward, take refuge in that. When we have found the kingdom within us, the kingdom of God, where the king lives, the king being the Atman, then we have no concerns. All else all else is added unto us. All wisdom, all righteousness. So the first thing for us to do, apparently, is to acknowledge, I am not the doer. To dispel this delusion, this fundamental delusion, that I am the doer, and that I have responsibility, and that I have a right. I have a right to the action. And there's no way I'm not going to act. So it isn't a question of responsibility. But I have no right to the fruits of the action because the fruits of the actions the actions weren't mine, and so the fruits aren't mine.
Can I jump in for a second?
Please. Yeah.
Thought keeps coming to mind. So if God alone is the doer, then God created the illusion of free will. So it's just fine. It's part of the overall play.
Yes, exactly.
Being a human being. So, and since I can't get rid of the illusion of free will anyway, I might as well just enjoy it or work with it and, play with all the paradoxes that come with it that make my mind collapse sometimes. Then this is my last thought, and then I'll shut up. So I used to teach refugees English, and I was working with this little kid, and we had a book of all these pictures of animals, and then the English word underneath. We come to the word pig, and he'd say pig. And we come to cow, and he'd say cow. We come to dog, and he'd say dog. And then we came to hippopotamus, and he couldn't say hippopotamus, but he didn't even try. He just started laughing. I thought that's my teaching, from this kid. So anyway, I'm totally confused, and that's fine. Because God's the one that's confused, not me, because there's no me to be confused. I'm not the doer. So thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And if you want a little instruction on this exact thing of living the questions or the paradoxes, go back to that talk on Anyway, there's a poem by Rainier Maria Rilke. I've forgotten the name of the talk now, in which it appears. But if you just do the search on our search engine in the archives of Rainier Maria Rilke, it's a beautiful poem about living the questions. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankar,
Yes, Bhagarat.
what I'm thinking that we are separating us from God. God makes us this, means we are different from God. But the classical Vedic language says, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. With the Greek said, as within, so without. So I try to understand in a different way that the system of the body tells a lot about the system of God who rules the body. For example, the body has been given two kinds of muscles, the voluntary muscles and the involuntary muscles. He created involuntary muscles because he had in the structure of the body a feeling, if I ask them to move the food from the mouth to the lower end, he will never do it. So let me put involuntary muscles there. Automatically they keep on working, even when we are asleep. The voluntary muscles, however, are created because he gives us a consciousness that if you want to keep your well-being, you better use the voluntary muscles. This is the reason why exercise. This is the reason why flossing. But from the flossing, he gives us intelligence just in the way that if you do not floss your teeth, the decaying meat will not let the teeth stay long. Similarly, if you do not floss your mind, the decaying thought will make your mind an absolutely a dirt. So everything has been given with system, and in this system, we have got a partial control, what you call free will. Free will is a partial control because although it's a free will, it is not a free will. And that is where I understand the body and correlate with God's way of doing it. For example, our tongue. Tongue has voluntary muscles. You can move it only if you want to. But still it is very involuntary. Many times we say things we don't mean to. We just blurt it out. So that complicated system has got to be handled. And the best way to handle is through divinity. And therefore your principle, everything that you do, you give it to God. You, what is called arpanam, give it to him. And then you will have the conscious thought. I gave him this. Was it a good stuff to give it to him? And the answer will be no. On the other hand, someone like Mother Teresa or even Jimmy Carter, everything they threw at God and God said, that's a good thing. Go ahead. And they went ahead. So there is a feedback all the time, but sometimes we do not listen to the feedback.
Ah,
Where the free will becomes random will, not free. And I think Vedanta makes your will properly controlled so that there is a beautiful synthesis of the voluntary and involuntary aspects which the God is enjoying.
well, you very well said as usual, Bhagarat. You started with the idea that somehow this is separating the body and the body-mind complex from God. It's not possible. If God alone is the doer, then all of this that is created is his doing. It cannot be in any way separate from him or her. It is simply inseparable. But of course, the way our minds work, we see separation. We see all of these people who are on the screen with us now. There they are. There seems to be separation. We know, if we believe the scriptures, we know it's not true. And we feel it if we look and feel in those directions. We feel it's not true. But it seems as if it's true. This is why Sri Krishna says it is a dream. Dreaming is a seeming. It's not a reality. So thank you, all of you, for contributing. Thank you for making this hour go so quickly. It just amazes me what happens when we open this up and we begin to talk.
Brother Gaurav here. I just have a little thing to say here.
Yes.
At times it's hard to decide what we should do. And it comes back to the words of Swami Vivekananda, where he says, believe, if you're conflicted, believe in what your heart scatters say rather than what your mind's saying.
Precisely. We, and this is why we offer the thoughts of the heart as well as the thoughts of the mind, if we're offering everything to the divine. So very well said, Gaurav. Yes, we must not limit ourselves to our thinking mind. It has a function within this dream, no two ways about it. But if it comes to a conflict, as Vivekananda said, between the head and the heart, go with the heart.
One last thought, Brother Shankara. I'm reminded of Krishna's words in which chapter, I don't know. But he clearly says, I think in chapter 3, that I, as God, I am the creator and I am all that. I am the seed. I am the father of the universe. And all that in chapter 7. He goes on describing what he is. And then he says, listen, Arjuna, I don't need to work at all. I am the source behind all work. And I do not have anything, any expectation of gain or loss. Still, regularly, I keep working. And then it says, if I don't set an example, I cannot say that others should not work. So he gives his own example that although I'm the master of the universe, I still regularly perform my daily duties. So he says, you are a part of my creation. And so also you should be working regularly. Niyatam kuru karmastvam. You do whatever is your share, whatever is assigned to you, your role as a housewife, as a mother, as a teacher, or as a bhakta. Only one caveat. As long as you do it without an ego, that I am the doer, that you should take out. So perform your actions daily, but without that sense of doership. And that's what I think we are talking about.
Oh, absolutely. No
Dedicating everything to the source.
And this is why I said what I said to Tom. There's no, or to Bhagirath, there is no separation between this body-mind complex and God. It is the creation of God. It is the constant work of God. So anything else from anyone before we close? All right, dears. Oh, dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this your jungle world. A flower for each one who stands by your open door and considers taking this path. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, "Come to me, come to me," offering to give us what we need to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. Om, dearly beloved, make it so. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga Durga Durga. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. Oh, dearly beloved, make it so. Any final thought from anyone? All right, dears.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're more than welcome, Lori. So until next time, which will be, of course, Tuesday, when we take up, where we read on in the introduction to the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So, thank you for coming. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai.